Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to another Snapshot video. This is Snapshot 21w08a, the latest iteration of the Caves and Cliffs update snapshots, and once again, I am back in a survival test world, running this basically from scratch. Not speedrunning it as such, but at least trying to get pretty far in the world with what I've got and seeing how this latest set of changes is going to affect survival gameplay. I'm actually having a really fun time exploring these snapshots in survival instead of just going into creative and flying around with night vision. I feel like this feels much more like the intended experience to me, so it's definitely the experience that we're going to be seeing a lot of ourselves, so I figure, hey, why not just step into the snapshot this way? Sadly, this snapshot has not introduced new mountain biome generation yet, and that's one of the things I'm looking forward to, because Mojang has been tweaking some of the ways that ores generate in the world, and from what I understand, this has been tweaked a little bit more. It's now much more of a linear ramp up or ramp down, depending on which direction you're traveling, I suppose, to find yourself with a lot of ore surrounding you, and the mountain biomes in particular, above a certain height, start to generate emerald ore a whole lot more, and as emerald ore is one of my favorite blocks in the game, I cannot wait to be completely surrounded by the stuff. Just picked up some andesite because I thought it was stone. Yeah, I cannot wait to be completely surrounded by emerald ore once I get a little bit further into the mountain biome. So I'm looking forward to that, and the mountains towering high above us eventually, but for now, I guess we've got to dig down and see what's up in the underground. We're also going to see a few more changes to ore textures, and I'm noticing one up here already. Can I mine copper ore with a stone pickaxe? I sure can. That is going to be useful information to remember for this update. So copper ore, as you can see, now has a little bit more green in the texture there. You'll notice it's got a bit more of the weathered copper look to the ore block itself, and that is really, once again, to help reinforce what block this is for people who have different types of color blindness. People who have difficulty seeing the orange part might be able to see the greeny blue part a little bit better, or vice versa. So I think that's obviously a really good change, and still a really pretty ore block. I've liked copper ore since it was introduced, and now seeing it more and more in the game, I'm actually starting to really like the way the ore block looks. There have been a few tweaks to the other ore blocks as well. I think coal now has a few more highlights in it. If you take a look, it's got almost yellowy patches in there, and part of these is actually to do with how these generate in caves below Y0, because the material that's down there has actually just been renamed, so I'm trying not to call it Grimstone because it's not called that anymore. The material that's down there now has corresponding ore blocks, so we'll find that there's actually a bunch of ore down there which looks like it is inside the block itself as opposed to inside of a stone block. Well, at least we've got enough coal now that we can make some torches, and I'm not going to make the same mistake I made last time where I come down into the underground with no food on me. I'm going to have to grab a few sheep or something from up here on the surface. We can make a bed to set our spawn down there, of course, but I would really like some food, and these squid, unfortunately, are not going to cut the mustard. So let's go looking in the mountains, see if we can find some sheep or some cows or something that's going to make a worthwhile dinner. And it may just be my imagination or some lucky generation here, but I'm seeing a lot more coal in these mountains, just exposed patches of coal all over this cliff face. I'm counting 6 or 7 just from where I'm standing. You got some there in the distance as well, and there's some right behind me too, so this is actually kind of perfect. We got some llamas around here, there we go, pigs and sheep. Let's get some pork chops, let's get enough wool for a bed, and then let's find a cave and start our journey downwards to the center of the earth. Oh, and I was taking a look around to see if there was going to be a desert or a snow biome, just to see if I could get hold of a bundle before I went underground, but instead I've stumbled upon a village. I wonder if they've got any useful resources in chests that I could take with me as well. I've got enough food now that I should be able to last a journey underground, but may as well raid this village while we look for a cave. And this is something very interesting. Looks like we have some really cool surface cave generation here. That almost looks like a ravine that stopped a little high up. That's really quite cool. All right, let's wander over here and take a quick look. Yep, that is definitely looking like your traditional ravine. Stops a little bit higher than I expected of it, but yeah, now you're talking. Now we're seeing a couple of those slices and layers intersecting. This was a problem with some of the previous cave generation that has now been fixed up a little bit in this snapshot, in that the canyons and cave carvers that they were using to create ravines and regular Minecraft caves before this now go down below Y0 and connect to the other caves more frequently. I haven't seen a whole lot of chests quests around here. It looks like we've stumbled upon a village that doesn't really have much in the way of additional resources. There's a couple of church-style buildings with brewing stands in them, I imagine, but yeah, nothing much in the way of loot here. Oh well, in that case, I'll probably just use this as a home base to start digging down and looking for iron, because I need to get geared up. We are playing this world in hard difficulty, and I just decided I wanted the challenge at this point. I have got cheats enabled, though, so we can take a look around in spectator mode a little bit later and see what all the fuss is about with these new caves. So with our first night spent in the village and all of the food cooked up, I think it's time to start looking for ores, specifically for iron ore, because I smelted up the copper just in case we can find some amethyst and maybe make a spyglass out of that later. It's always good to be zooming in on stuff in vanilla, but I think if we hop down here, we might be able to find a little bit of iron lurking at the bottom of this ravine. Otherwise, we're potentially going to have to look a little further afield. Nope, this is all looking pretty diorite-y down here, so may as well leave that behind. And with a little bit of digging through this wall, we should find ourselves in the other half of the canyon, the more interesting looking half from the looks of things, and potentially we'll see a little bit more going on this side, and we might find a convenient place to drop in right here. Okay, I'm going to be working with the axe for a minute until I get hold of some iron, and of course, the baby zombies are immediately here to burn in the sunlight. And honestly, the more I look at copper, the more it has become my new favorite ore block. That's just such a cool color for an ore block. I really like it. Okay, gonna have to play a little safe here. We got some skeletons around the corner. I don't have a shield yet, so let's see if I can sneak up on this guy, wait for him to come over here, and bam, there we go. Get him in the legs. Haha. Get your leg bones out of here, sir. Fantastic. I'll take them. Elevation-wise, we are at Y54, so potentially we won't be seeing the maximum amount of iron here. You'll actually start to get that a little bit lower down, so if we can start some caving from here, this looks like a low, flat one until it takes a dip into the earth. And wow, I really like how it kind of feels wide but shallow, kind of is claustrophobic at the same time. Well, having staircased down from that ravine, I found myself in a nice shallow cave here, and it seems like it ends over here, but it might actually connect up to some other caves down this end, and we're already going to get a look at some of the changes to ore blocks once again. So gold now looks like this now. It's got a bit of a change from the nether gold ore, I guess because originally the nether gold ore design on the overworld gold ore looked a little bit misleading because it looked like that might break down into gold nuggets like nether gold ore does. So obviously, a bit of a change needed there. I still don't have any iron, so I can't actually mine the gold right now, but hopefully we'll be able to find some iron as well, because the look of iron has changed a little bit too. Well, unfortunately, that shallow cave didn't really go anywhere in either direction, so I think I'm just going to continue digging straight down and see if we hit a patch of some of the newer caves below Y0, and hopefully we'll find a little area to explore down there. If not, I can always retrace my steps, find another surface cave, and see if I can find one that leads all the way down to the underground from the surface. Hi friends, Pixlriffs from the future here. So you may notice throughout this video I have a bit of a problem finding iron, and as I'm digging down here I don't really encounter any iron at all. It turns out I was not alone in that, and Sliced Lime from the Minecraft development team did tweet out earlier today that there is a bit of a problem with iron in this snapshot. Iron ore generates much less frequently than intended, and that might be why, if you loaded up a world in this snapshot, you weren't really able to find enough iron to put yourself together a pickaxe, even though you should have been digging down layers that would have contained an abundant amount of it. So it looks like that's going to get fixed in an 08b snapshot that should be published tomorrow. Meantime, I made this video with absolutely no knowledge that this was the case. I thought I was just getting unlucky and not finding iron, and in the end, it turned into a bit of a challenge once we reached the lower levels of the underground. So, let's roll the footage and see what happens. Well, this is it. We've hit the new layer, and it looks like we actually, as I was starting to explain this, came right out into a new cave. So that's looking good. All right, first of all, the block we are looking at now is now called Deepslate, and we are now getting Cobbled Deepslate. This is going to be an interesting change, and we'll see how that all fits together. But what we are looking at right here is just regular Deepslate, and the Cobbled Deepslate seems to be slightly different. So we'll see how those two look side by side a little bit later on. But these are now Deepslate caves instead of Grimstone caves, and if I stop talking for a second, you'll hear that they have their own block sounds. Let's actually turn that up so we get a little bit of a better Yeah, there we go. It's got its own kind of breathy sound to it, which I really quite like over the standard block-breaking noises we all know and love. Now, I'm going to have to find the edge of this cave so that I can get down here, because I don't know if I can survive that kind of fall. There might be some mobs down there that I don't want to tangle with after taking fall damage. We can still use the Cobbled Deepslate to make a stone pickaxe, though, and since stone is my only recourse right now, I figure I will give it a go. I'll try and get over towards that pillar, and maybe we can use that to dig down. But that's going to make it kind of interesting, because right now I can't like pick block to the deep slate from any of these walls, so I'm gonna have to use this kind of sparingly. And yes, no, I can see a little bit of a difference in the top texture here, maybe less so in the side texture. It kind of looks the same side by side, but the top texture of this block has changed a little bit to be more like a darker, streaky version of stone. If I saw that texture on all sides, then I feel like I would like that a little bit more. But wait, this one here is also Cobbled Deepslate. I'm confused. Oh, it's also got a really nice stony placement sound to it. Listen to this. There we go. Yeah, it's got this really, really nice resonance to it, which I quite like. And it's going to at least differentiate it from regular stone in that way. Maybe it's just me. Maybe if I get down a little bit further, this mystery will resolve itself, because it seems like the floor down here is now made of that regular deep slate texture, but the Cobbled Deepslate still generates in patches here and there. And we're also looking at a patch of Tuff there. So Tuff has now actually taken the place of the Andesite that you would find generating underground in these deep slate caves, as they are now called. And you'll also find, wow, by the way, hello? Look at this. Look at the cave generation down here. We have hit the jackpot, it looks like. So Tuff seems to now have taken the place of the andesite generating in these deep slate caves. We do have occasional, whoa, patches of silverfish stone still, though, and I'm glad that doesn't have a deep slate alternative. That's going to make it nice and easy to spot. And I can't believe that I found diamonds before I found iron, but I have a feeling I might have to go further up in the world if I want to find some iron. And right now I feel like I don't fancy my chances down here with all of the skeletons and the silverfish following me around everywhere. Maybe if I take out this zombie and ask nicely, he's going to give me his sword. Can I have your sword, please? Nope, didn't get it. Oh well, looks like he wasn't open to negotiation. Well, luckily I've lit up this area enough and given them the runaround for long enough that I was able to place my bed and set a spawn point. So hopefully now I can craft myself a stone axe and get back in the fight. There we go. Get crits! Get crits! Amazing. All right, we've made it. We've survived a little bit. But yeah, I have a feeling if I look at that graphic again, it's probably going to tell me whether or not we have any iron generating down here. I just noticed I had another axe in my inventory that whole time, so hopefully we should find some iron down here. According to the image that they shared as part of the changelog, there are going to be smaller blobs of iron found down here, as well as a little bit of regular iron generating just underneath the surface down to about Y-16. So hopefully we'll get lucky and in the walls around us we will start to see some iron. But as we've already seen, as I was dancing merrily around those zombies, there are now these new ores in the game, which are basically going to be the same as the old ores. I presume they are going to react basically the same as the old ores do, but they are specifically deep slate ores. So right here we have some of the deep slate diamond ore. These are apparently going to be twice as tough to break because deep slate itself is a little tougher to break than standard stone is. Deep slate redstone there, of course, and the redstone texture has been tweaked a little bit. It's no longer quite so flat on the top. It still looks a little odd to me, but I'm certain I will get used to it. And I'm pretty sure around here somewhere there was also some deep slate gold. Yeah, here it is right over here. Let's get a torch on that so you folks can see it. It blends in an interesting way with the surroundings, especially when the surroundings are the top texture of the new regular deep slate as opposed to the cobbled deep slate texture, which still seems to be on the sides of most of these blocks. And I'm not certain if that's intentional, if it's meant to look like layers of rock or not, but I'm kind of interested in to see if we're going to get a full block with that texture on all 6 sides, because I like that, and I feel like it would blend really nicely from stone into the new cobbled deep slate. It's becoming increasingly apparent to me that I am running around here with no armor and with no means to harvest any of the diamonds around here, so I really hope I find some iron soon. I don't know if looking further down in the world is really going to work for me, so I wonder if maybe I should try and make my way back towards the surface and dodge some of these skeletons until I can find myself some decent armor. Or I suppose the alternative would be to find an exit like this one, because these deep slate caves are now connecting more frequently to the caves above thanks to the improved terrain generation. But I did spot these on my way up there. Right now we have a new deep slate iron variant that we're looking at right here, and the iron texture has changed once again. It's kind of streaking in from the sides a little bit, and I like the way it wraps into the next door texture. That's pretty cool. Does take a while to mine with a stone pickaxe though, and I've only got 2 so far, but 2 is enough for a shield, which will be enough for me. Whoa! There is a deep slate creeper right there, it turns out. Everything down here is deep slate. But unfortunately for me, I haven't quite brought enough wood with me that I can make a shield right now, so I think it's probably time to go looking for an abandoned mineshaft, since they're going to be more or less our only source of wood down here, unless we can find a patch of dirt or somewhere to plant the oak sapling. I should have brought some dirt from the surface, really, because you don't really find any dirt down here in these caves. But now I have enough to make an iron pickaxe. If I'm careful about my wood usage here, I can make an iron pickaxe like so, and then we can mine some of the diamonds I've been seeing, because there are still a few on the surface, although that has also been adjusted to make sure that finding diamonds isn't as easy as it was in the previous snapshots. And that may of course be a bit of a controversial change. I know some people thought it was too easy to find diamonds, some people thought it was too hard, but honestly, I like having a little bit of variety in that. I like running into occasional bigger diamond veins whilst also having to struggle to find them occasionally. And I also still kind of enjoy being faked out by glow lichen everywhere, but I'm fairly certain I did see some more diamond ore around here somewhere. So let me scour this area a little bit more closely, and hopefully we'll be able to find some more of those deep slate diamonds. And yes, I knew I found some of these somewhere. Alright, well, now we can at least pop down a crafting table, make myself a diamond pickaxe, and we are going to be good for a while. Let's go hunting for a few more diamonds. I should hopefully be able to make some armor out of those, but yeah, I see a little bit more iron over there in the wall too. So let's get a little more geared up, and let's take our first steps out into the massive cavern beyond. Looks like we struck a lucky vein there. I got myself 5 diamonds, which is going to go towards my first helmet. There it is. Looking very nice. Can't believe the first armor we've made in this world is diamond. That's pretty crazy. And yeah, we're still seeing a few patches of silverfish-infested stone down here, so looks like we know what to avoid if we're around here. And yeah, we are seeing occasional blobs of iron once again, but they are basically in veins of 1 or 2. It's kind of like finding emerald ore down here. When the team said they were introducing Deepslate Ores, or Grimstone as it was at that point, I wasn't sure how easy it was going to be to find them, but I think if anything, they stand out in the deep slate more than they would in regular stone because of the contrast in color. It's a real pop of color that you find in the walls around here, and next to the Tuff, it definitely stands out a lot, but it's really cool to see deep slate variants of all of these ores, and obviously being able to silk touch these, you'll have more variety of ore blocks if you want to build with them or create big piles of them in a treasure room or something. It's certainly making diamond relatively easy to spot, but I can already see the difference. I am having to work a little bit harder to find diamonds now, I think. I can spot them from a distance, but again, getting over there is going to be a little bit difficult, and wow, I really like exploring these caves. They have a very different feel to the caves that generate from the surface. I spotted one more diamond ore down there, and there's a little bit more underneath that. I'm trying to avoid getting attacked by zombies here, but that should be enough to get us a diamond chest plate and have one left over, maybe a diamond shovel, or maybe we'll just save that for some boots or something. A zombie villager is down here as well. I really wish I had the materials to cure him right now. That's a zombie armorer. It's basically what I'm looking for at this point. And I guess if you were really stuck for iron down here, but you were decently geared up, you could potentially get a couple of lucky iron drops from zombies, and that might help you out. I've got to keep this crafting table, by the way. This crafting table is my lifeline, and I don't have enough wood to make another one, so I think that's probably going to stick with me for a little while here. I'm really missing coal being everywhere though, and I really wish I'd brought a little bit more of that from the surface, because running out of torches in the underground is a real problem. It is no joke being down here with all of this darkness. I'm tempted even to make some redstone torches, but I also haven't found a source of wood yet, and at least we can bop the redstone ore in the walls to light things up a little bit, so every time I run past one of these, I'm right-clicking on it just to see if it can illuminate a little bit more of the terrain for me. Exploring these caves with the vast pillars everywhere, though, is such a cool expansion to mining. The more time I spend down here, the more excited I am for this update in general. And there is our salvation. Yes, we've got ourselves an abandoned mineshaft. I was hoping we'd run into one sooner or later. And if there is a dirt patch around here somewhere, we might even be able to grow some of these tree saplings renewably. But unfortunately, we have to deal with the side effect of there also being cave spiders. At least with a couple of logs, I can finally start to make some more charcoal, and then I'll be able to see again, which will be a vast improvement, let me tell you. And finally, I can make myself a shield. I've managed to cook up the last of that iron that we got down here from the Deepstone Cave, and I am finally a little bit more geared up, feeling a little bit happier with my setup so far. A few more surface level diamonds might not go amiss though. With that in mind though, let's talk about the likelihood of surface level diamonds, because like I said, I have definitely found fewer of them now that I am down here in this part of the cave, and from what I understand, the team has reduced the amount of air exposure that diamonds get, but the amount of diamonds we're going to find down here is still potentially about the same. So that encourages players to go mining into the walls of these caves, and with Deepslate being a tougher material to mine, we're really going to be finding a little bit less of the kind of traditional strip mining going on. We're not going to be able to dig into the walls around here with a haste beacon setup and really make much progress. So I think it's going to potentially change the meta for mining. You might find yourself strip mining at Y, 16 to Y0 to try and get some diamonds, or alternatively, you might find yourself exploring these caves a little bit more looking for diamonds, and then digging into the walls occasionally with a more traditional strip mining approach without haste to see if you can get a few more diamonds that way. But the race is on to figure out the most efficient way of mining diamonds at this point, because it could just be exploration down here, but it looks like you're going to have to explore a lot further to find that big score. But I'm wondering how likely it will be that we run into diamonds while we're exploring an abandoned mineshaft, how likely the abandoned mineshafts are to expose diamonds in their generation, or if the diamonds are generated after the mineshaft and are kind of tucked away behind walls. We will see. Oh, we have a little chest here. Let's see if we can grab anything good out of that. Bit of bread. That's going to work out well for me because I'm running low on resources, and an iron pickaxe. So that would be pretty crucial loot if we still needed to get hold of some iron. Thankfully, though, I'm a little bit better kitted out at this point. Something else this all has me curious about is access to diamonds through aquifers, because some of the developers were tweeting earlier in the week about potentially having more diamonds exposed to water in these caves. So if you end up in a flooded cave, dive mining might be a thing instead of just mining through an open air cave. And that might be an interesting strategy to find yourself swimming through these caves with a turtle helmet or water breathing, and that way potentially you could find a few more of the precious resources that we're all out here looking for. Honestly though, just give me a shield and a few veins of diamond and I am a lot happier. And can we just appreciate how awesome abandoned mineshafts look this deep underground? This is an absolute triumph. Just the chains dangling them from all of the walls. It's so impressive. I really like hanging around these, which is good because once again they are kind of the only source of wood right now. But I'm going to get away from that one and branch out into this cave once again, because there are a few more veins of diamonds that have my name on them. I've got a couple over here that might potentially be an 8 vein. We are at Y28 right now, so we are pretty low down in the world. But yeah, no more quickly mining these while mobs are attacking me. I probably need to be a little bit more careful right now. Well, I'm out of food except for rotten flesh and so close to death thanks to this skeleton, but I think I can probably get in here and deliver the final blow. Yes, there we go. Okay, and I got myself 5 more diamonds, so that at least will get me some boots before I inevitably snuff it down here in the caves. And I think once I'm dead, once I breathe my last, we will probably come back through here in spectator mode. Look at the watercolors here, though. I think we are right next to a swamp. It must be on the surface because the water is changing color, and that right there is screenshot worthy. That's very cool looking. But all in all, I've been caving for less than an hour, and I've still got myself to the point where I have a diamond pickaxe and almost full diamond armor, just missing the leggings right now, and we still have a diamond or 2 in reserve. We got a couple more over here. Maybe we can get 1 or 2 more out of this little vein, but it looks like we can at least get 1. Yes, there we go. Okay, so that's enough for a diamond hoe, I suppose, or a couple of shovels if you're not that way inclined. And what is this? Hello? Okay, right, I need to investigate this because there are a couple of other changes that have been made in this snapshot. In particular, the introduction of, I think, this block I'm looking at right now. If I have interpreted the changelog correctly, this is a new block named Smooth Basalt. Yes, okay, and that is now replacing Tuff as the outside of geodes. And I gotta say, it does look a little bit more like calcite, like a darker version of calcite than the Tuff used to. So let's dig down into this geode, which should have its own natural light, or at least a couple of dim lights in here, and maybe we'll be safe enough to test out how these blocks look in survival. Yep, looks like the cave here is a little bit more enclosed, and now you can see the difference right there between that and the Tuff. I don't have any of the Tuff on me, I didn't mine out any of it while I was in the cave, but that is very different, but does look like a high contrast, darker version of the calcite. If you put the two side by side like this, they have a similar kind of line. The diagonal texture looks a little bit different from the Tuff, and I really quite like it. You can actually now get this by smelting basalt in a furnace as well, so that's going to be a renewable resource for those of us with basalt generators and access to the nether. The calcite still isn't renewable though, and as such a pretty kind of quartz-like block, I can imagine that being quite desirable for players, so I wonder if we'll end up seeing a way of getting that renewably. Maybe a combination of the smooth basalt and quartz could make it? Potentially. We will see. But for now, backed into this Amethyst Geode with only some diamond armor and a diamond pickaxe to my name and no food, I think that's probably where I'm going to wrap up the survival portion of this video. I think we did pretty well getting as far as we did in the underground. We are on hard difficulty, so it's definitely a little bit tough getting down here, no pun intended. Let's hop into spectator mode and have a quick fly around these caves though, because where we came out was a truly spectacular cave, and I really love the way these have now evolved into their own underground layer. It's such a glorious look to everything. And I'm not going to switch night vision on much, as I'm sure the video would need it, because I really don't like the way night vision makes a lot of these caves look, but we can already see just here how different it is having Tuff incorporated into the Deepslate, as well as a few of the other blocks dotted around here and there. And it's clear that the overworld caves now have much more of an intersection with these Deepslate caves, because this is basically a ravine underground that opens out into a deeper cave underneath Y0, so that's looking pretty spectacular, I think. And just having had a fly around here for a little while, yes, there are fewer patches of diamonds than there were originally. We're still spotting them every so often in here, but the amount you have to travel to get hold of them seems to be a little bit bigger. There are a bunch of them this low down, and right now I think we're at, we're at a lower point in the world. We're at Y-48, and potentially this is where other obstacles like the Warden are going to start coming into play. So who knows? We will potentially see a little bit more action deep down in these caves than we would want when we're digging this low for diamonds. But here in the awesome surroundings of this abandoned mineshaft, let's pop into creative mode and take a look at some of the ore textures a little bit closer. So now next to all of the regular overworld ores in the creative inventory, you will find their Deepslate variants. And once again, these have been fine-tuned so that they are more visible to people with color blindness issues, so hopefully it should stand out nice and easily that blocks like this have stripes of iron ore in them. They've got highlights and lowlights to compensate. You won't find any copper or coal down here low enough in the underground. Let me pop down a torch so you guys can see this a little better. You won't find copper and coal ores in Deepslate variants because they simply don't generate below Y0, and likewise emerald ore does not generate this low down either. In fact, it sort of has the opposite generation. It generates more the further up in the world you go, as mountains begin to grow. And emerald ore has a little bit of a texture change as well. My beloved block gets kind of an update, and to be honest, I'm a fan of this. I think it looks really cool having some slightly larger emeralds poking out of it, and while I'm going to miss the sort of clustered design it had originally, it does feel a little bit more modern and more in tune with the rest of the ore textures. Diamond, as we know, is staying the same. They are not planning on changing that, and the lapis configuration is kind of the same, although it's gained a few more highlights just to make sure that it blends in and is more visible with the deep stone ore. Redstone is looking a little bit better now. As I said, I do like the way that looks a little bit better, just rounding out the top there so it doesn't quite have as much vertical space at the top of the texture. It's still going to be odd to some people. I know redstone ore somehow ended up being one of the more iconic things about Minecraft. Potentially the glow aspect has something to do with that. And diamond ore, as we know, is staying precisely the same. The contrast that comes out of the Deepslate ore version is really quite something, though. It's kind of like camo diamond almost, which seems kind of interesting. But there we go. And this texture here, if you look at this next to some natural stone, that top texture really starts to blend a little better for me. It's kind of got the streakiness that natural stone has, but then you look at the side and it's got those striations, it's got the layers. I would really like to see this actually be put more to use as a texture on all 6 faces, and then have the cobbled Deepslate that we get now have that texture as well, because it seems like this block right here is more or less everywhere. And here to contrast, we have the cobbled Deepslate. So as far as having like a gradient between these goes, let me border that with something a little bit different. That's actually a really nice transition block when viewed from above. The only problem with that is then you look at them from the side, and these 2 blocks here look precisely the same. You see, they've got that kind of connection there because the texture on the sides is the same. I wonder if the texture below, that is actually the modified texture. So the top and bottom textures are different. I would really like to see this on all 6 faces. I don't know if that's just not what they intend with this block, but personally, I think it feels a little odd to not have that on every single side. I believe there have also been some tweaks to the Deepslate variants just to make them a little bit less high contrast and remove some of those darker black lines that we saw around the textures previously. I like the changes to these. I think they are pretty good, and I still think there might be some potential for the Deepslate tile texture to wrap around to the next block over a little bit better, but it certainly has these adjoining grey layers around the side that really kind of feel like they fit together a little better in like a longer area like this. My problem with this before was that it was too easy to see where the edges of each of these blocks was, and it didn't really feel like it tiled together very subtly. It felt quite obvious, but I think that has been tweaked ever so slightly, and I feel like the join with these is a little bit more subtle at this point. So I'll give that a pass. I think that looks pretty nice. And the Deepslate brick, as it's now called, is also going to be a really important building block for people who like the stone brick color palette. Chiseled Deepslate, of course, remaining mostly the same, although it has a little bit, once again, of the darkness kind of lifted slightly and made a little bit brighter, just to bring down the overall contrast of the block, and I think that's a good change. One last change to talk about from the changelog, and one that doesn't really apply to the rest of what we've been looking at here, but if we place a spore blossom up here, these will now generate particles in the air around them instead of just below them. So as you can see, there are a bunch more kind of local particles generated in the same chunk, and also a little bit further away from where this one is placed. Let me turn on the chunk borders here and see if we get any particles. Yeah, we are getting particles into the next chunk over, so it is just a straight up radius around these, and that really does add some atmosphere. They're almost like little fireflies, except they're not exactly glowing in the same way, but the spore blossoms now have this much broader radius of effect, and I think that works a lot better for them than just dripping in a column beneath them. That's super nice. And that's certainly much more how I imagined the effect happening when they were first announced at Minecraft Live. So props to the team for implementing that one. I think it's going to make a really cool change to lush caves and other builds that players will use them for as well. Stuff like jungles, maybe. You'll find that they end up being used there for great effect. So folks, that is probably where we're going to wrap up this look at Snapshot 21w08a. If there's anything you think I missed from this snapshot, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to cover it in future episodes. But I think we are getting a better and better look at what the caves are going to look like every single snapshot, and I still can't wait to see how the dripstone caves and lush caves are going to generate in the world as well. I hope you guys are looking forward to future snapshots. Leave a like on this video for me if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.